October 7th is a day that will live in infamy for us. It is a day that changed our lives forever. Our lives and our entire world. No one will ever forget where they were on October 7th when they heard the news. I know I won't forget. I was in shul, and we started hearing sounds, things were happening. I said, I don't want to hear, I don't want to hear. I didn't really realize what was happening. Later on, we all heard what was happening. The interesting thing is that Congresswoman Meng, who's not Jewish, went around to many shuls in our neighborhood to see if everybody was okay, to see who had family in Israel, to see if they heard from them, to let us know that although we were being attacked and slaughtered like sheep, we weren't alone. Grace Meng has been a friend to our community for a very long time. She has not started, she did not start being our friend on October 7th or October 8th or October 13th when it became a thing to do for some. She was our friend way before. Many of you remember years ago, former President Obama wanted the nuclear Iran deal. And Grace Meng said no. She has been a staunch supporter of our community, of our people, of our country. We are so fortunate to live here in the United States of America. Many of us have family members who come from a different time where we were persecuted in a similar way. We were murdered, we were raped, our homes were burned, and we're only a few years past that. There are a few survivors left, but there are still survivors. When October 7th happened, my grandmother was still alive. She was a survivor. She has since passed. We all still feel the pain of the Holocaust, and then to have this happen to us. And the world is against us, very loudly against us. We have one district over from us, a congressperson who is not a friend, and the liberals, the DSA, are trying to push their way into our communities. And we will not let them. How do we not let them? By having our friends. We have a Grace Meng who stands with us. It doesn't matter that the protesters are storming her office, are disgusting on Twitter and Instagram. The messages they're posting to her are so horrible and nasty. She has Zoom meetings with constituents when she can't make it to a meeting. They have a Zoom meeting. They bomb the Zoom meeting. They are horrible. They've even gone to her house and have protested outside of her home with her family. That's not okay. And she does not have to stand with us. She could just be quiet. She doesn't have to say anything. She doesn't have to say, I stand with Israel. Israel has a right to defend themselves. She doesn't have to. She doesn't have to give money to the Iron Dome to fund the Iron Dome. She doesn't have to. And she does. She does all of these things, not for herself. And it's not for her people. She does it because it's the right thing, even though she's a Democrat. Many in our community vote red, myself included. That's okay. It's okay. It's okay. But it's important. It's so important to recognize when we have a friend. It's important to recognize that when you have a friend, you keep your friend. This is not a fundraiser. I asked for this party. I made this party because I want the entire community, I want the people to be able to meet this amazing woman who stands with us when it's not fun to stand with us. And I wanted Congresswoman Meng to see the people, to meet the people and see who's here, who's voting for her, who are we? She knows who we are. But to meet everyone, face to face, shake hands. We are all here for Grace, to say thank you to her for everything she's done for us. It's important for me to recognize we have a few other electeds here, also Democrats. We have Councilwoman Lynn Schulman. From the Kew Gardens, Forest Hills District, who is the only Jewish city council member from Queens, the only one. She is the only Jewish Queens city councilwoman. Every district has their own. So she's representing us. And we love her, and she's been standing with us, loud and proud. We also have Assemblymember Sam Berger here with us. We have District Leader Schulman. We have judges, we have rabbis, we have doctors, lawyers, and we have all of us here together as one. Let's say thank you to Grace Meng.
Gosh, how do you follow Sorolle? Well, I just wanted to be here to say thank you. Sorolle and so many of you have been so kind and so gracious in this time, which may be one of the hardest periods of your lives and our generations. But many of you don't hesitate to reach out to me and to check in on me and to encourage me in my job and in my personal life. And I just want to say how incredibly grateful I am to all of you. Sorolle acknowledged the elected officials and of course Judge Cassandra Johnson as well. But I did want to say a quick sentence or two about Lynn and Sam, because as someone who is not Jewish, it is so important for me to have this wonderful, not just friendship, but working relationship with Lynn and Sam. You all know them, you know the work that they do in public, but just like Sorolle does, Lynn is constantly checking in on me, and not just out of the goodness of her heart, she's weighing in on what our communities, our leaders, our party need to do better to make sure that the voices of the Jewish community are truly at the table and are being represented. So thank you, Lynn, for your guidance. To Assemblymember Berger, who I feel like is new, but feels like a lot has happened since you got into office. And I'm older than I look, so I can truly say that Sam is very young. But I have been encouraged by your style of leadership, and thank you also for making sure to weigh in on when you think our communities need to do better, our leaders need to do better, but also just as important to give me feedback. Literally when he's out meeting members of our shared communities, Sam is telling me what he's hearing at the doors, on the streets, in the supermarkets, and that is really important to me as I represent a district of almost 800,000 people. It's really important for me to hear from all of you what's happening on the ground and what needs to be improved on. It's been, I have my phone on because literally we are in this type of world and news cycle, pace of the news cycle that is so fast-paced right now. I was half joking that we don't know what news will be breaking by the time we leave this gathering. But that is why it's all the more important for us to be able to convene like this and to make sure that the lines of communication are open. I first got elected to Congress in 2012, and at that time, many of us were new friends. And I said you and Linda. I want to acknowledge Rabbi Pollock from my team. And also Tiana Armstrong in the back. And what I said to you, I remember at the time, and I think I still say it, is that we may never agree on everything. We may never agree on every issue. You may not always like something that I'm saying or doing or working on, but I will always do my best to represent the needs and the concerns of the people of this district. And sometimes you'll like what I do and say, and sometimes you won't, but I pledge to always have an open door and to listen to all of you. And so, during this incredibly difficult time, and Sorolle is kind to mention, look, I'm old enough where, don't let my highlights, which disguise my white hair, fool you. But I'm old enough to be confident enough in the decisions that I have to make as a local elected official. Which means that when we don't agree with everyone, I'm probably upsetting someone on some side at any given moment. But that's okay, I have 2 teenage boys. I can handle that. But I know they're teenagers because when I first started, many of you, they've run through these halls. They were 2 and 4 when I first started. And so I'm old enough where if I have to make a decision that I believe is in the best interest of my community and my district, I'm confident in making that. And oftentimes, it might not be what my leaders say or what my colleagues may agree on, but if I believe that it's the right decision for my district, it gives me confidence to make those decisions because I know that our communities have my back. And so many of you have never shied away from expressing your support and your friendship, and I'll even say your love for my team and the work that we do. And I can't tell you in this business where more people criticize us on any given day, hour, minute, how comforting it is to even hear a thank you or a kind word from each and every one of you. And I just wanted to be here to say thank you, because in these tough times, that is truly needed. My team is, as you know, Sorolle described a little bit, is often on the front lines of these protests that we get. I'm in Washington a lot, especially during the week. I've been in Washington for most of the protests that have happened at my office. And I want to thank, in my office, it's the local 109, 111, we've tried to include everyone at this point, 109 to 112, and the 111 precincts of the NYPD, who have been especially vigilant in taking care of our teams and our constituents. But it's really my staff who have been on the front lines, from phone calls and emails and protests. I was just joking at Howard that actually when they came to my house, some of my neighbors who are staunch Republicans and probably don't even vote for me, but actions like that hurt their cause and actually brought all of us closer together. The protesters had body bags, child-sized body bags outside of my house, and these Republicans helped us clean it up. And we literally, even though I've been living there a long time, we've literally gotten closer because of this. So, hey, bright light for everything. But October 7th, I obviously don't observe Shabbat. I have one of these rocket alert apps on my phone, which I'm fortunate enough to be able to turn off for most of the time. And I happened, because I saw some news alert, I think it was a Saturday morning, right? I happened to see news come by, and I turned on the alert, and I said, oh, okay, there's rockets. This is what the people have to go through and endure again, right? Unfortunately, nothing shocking. But then, as the minutes and not even hours went by, we kept hearing all this devastating news. Oftentimes when things happen, I check in with my team, we text, we email. They love getting emails off hours, after hours from me. I always have lots of thoughts. But I couldn't. It was Shabbat. It was also the holiday. And it was a Saturday. I didn't want to bother my team if I didn't have to. And I literally did not know what to do. I didn't have time to consult people. Hours went by. And that's really why I went to some of the shuls in our district. I said, I don't know what to do for people at this moment, but just to be with them and let them know that I am with them physically, spiritually, legislatively, however whatever I need to do to show that support. And so I know that, and Sorolle says it's the thing to do to stand with Jews right now. I wish it was the thing to do, because I don't really feel like it's the thing to do for a lot of people, and some people, it used to be the thing to do. And I will say, as an Asian American, during the pandemic, when the Asian community was going through this rise in discrimination and bias and hatred, people were getting verbally abused to literally physically hurt and killed. So many communities did not hesitate for 1 second, and they flocked to our side at rallies, on Zooms, on phone calls, and again, legislatively. I felt a lot of pressure as an Asian American, and I said, something has to be done. And it was literally, if I had to name, and I would say this in front of other communities, it literally was leaders from the Black community and the Jewish community that flocked to my side and said, we know what it's like to be hated. We know what it's like to be discriminated against. And here are some of the bills, the legislation, the policies that we've been working on to mitigate that hate. And what hurts me now is to see, as the Jewish community is hurting and literally fearful for their lives, there are many communities, there are many people who are not flocking to your side and who refuse, not only refuse to stand up for our Jewish brothers and sisters, but actually add salt to the wound. And we in this country obviously have the right to freedom of speech. As a Chinese American whose ancestors come from mainland China, there are a lot of disagreements that people around the world, including Americans, have with the government or leadership of China. And what I've always said, even if you do, you can say it and you can share your opinions and we can have an adult conversation and find ways to bridge these gaps. But you have no right to put a target on the backs of any one community because you have disagreements with policy or because you're singling out a community with stances like the BDS movement. If you don't agree with something that the Chinese government is doing, would you ever say you were going to ban everything that is Chinese, Chinese American, Asian, or that is made in China? So all we have to do is just substitute any other nation and the leadership and the people in how some of these sentences and actions and words are being promoted, and see how the Jewish people and the Jewish community are literally being singled out. And I'm not just saying this because I represent a vibrant Jewish community. It is dangerous. I have not just constituents, but my kids are in high school. They have friends who are applying to colleges. It is a shame that they have to, as one of their criteria for selecting schools to apply to, worry about if their children will be safe, kept alive, and be able to practice their religion and worship freely. Not in the United States of America should this be true for any community. My kids have friends who have, in months past, especially when there were more consistent protests, the kids couldn't get home, right? From wherever they were around the city. They couldn't get home because these protests were blocking, the Grand Centrals and the subway stations. These kids feared for their lives. And in so many cases, that's still the case. And we in Queens, we in New York, will never allow that to be the case. And we will continue to fight back on it. And so, sorry, I'm really going off on a tangent. I just feel very comfortable with all of you. And I've been in Washington a lot, so I haven't seen many of you in many weeks. So it just really warms my heart to see all of you. But we have a lot of work to do, because even if people aren't tweeting the right things, even if people aren't targeting our Jewish community members, even before all this started, we still had a lot of work to do. In Congress, we have been working, and I do want to give one of my colleagues a shout out. I don't know if you all know her, Congresswoman Kathy Manning, who you really need to meet. She is from North Carolina. She, in her one term, has become one of my favorite people in Congress. And she sometimes stays above the fray, but she is working every single second. So for people to thank, I hope if you ever run into her somehow, even online, that you will express gratitude towards her. It is largely because of her efforts that we have even this beginning framework of what the White House put out to counter anti-Semitism. And I know it's not perfect, and not everyone likes every piece, or people feel like there should be certain things that should have been included. But it's the first time that an administration has done that. And what's more important, it's not just lip service, it works with every single agency. We had people, because we would get complaints about different things that was going on in different agencies. Things from like, not having kosher food available when federal employees needed it, to swastikas being drawn on a government building bathroom wall and no one was really paying attention, to making sure that our food pantries, thank you, Met Council, we really, well, you probably knew beforehand, but what we really saw during COVID, how a lot of our pantries didn't have kosher food. There were people that could not get enough food from food pantries because of the way that the rules were written. So anyway, there are so many things that are being done that we are starting to try to fix within our government rules and regulations. One of them is I interned in an agency during law school that no one ever knew about or cared about. It was the Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights. And I would try to explain this to my law school friend. Cassandra probably knew it. But most of my friends were like, what? Why are you working for the Department of Education? Anyway, my job was literally to keep track of complaints from different schools who receive federal funding and how people may have been discriminated against. I didn't think much about it. I was a law school intern. I was literally just writing down numbers every day. But what we are trying to do now, which is so important, they, like a public defender, have a caseload that is way too heavy. They do not have the people power or the resources or even adequate staff to be able to keep track of these complaints that are coming from schools, and not just keep track, but actually take action. And so this is something that is not as exciting sometimes, but this issue has really come to the forefront because of what we've seen on college campuses, and not just college campuses, a lot of it is happening at the lower levels too. And so this is something that, while not exciting, we are working on. Next year, so if the Democrats are in control, be the chair. If the Democrats are not in control, I'll be the ranking member of State and Foreign Operations, which is the subcommittee of our Appropriations Committee that gives all foreign aid, including to Israel. And so one of my items on my agenda, this, to me, it can't just be making sure that Israel has the resources that it needs to defend herself and its people. We have to do a better job at civic education. When you talk to any given person on the streets of New York or the United States, and even before October 7th, they'll name numbers like, oh yeah, we give 50% of our budget to foreign aid. They don't know. Less than 1% in a normal year goes to foreign aid. And obviously even less of that to protect the people of Israel. There are conflicts and wars that are happening. We had a group of 16-year-olds going around the halls of Congress. They're from Sudan. They were in tears, asking us why no one's talking about what their people are going through. And what happens when you have a vacuum of information and you don't have all the facts out there, people are not equipped with all the facts and the numbers and the data, including Congress members on both sides of the aisle, because there is a real trend to limit the amount of funding, not just for military resources, but for soft power, for diplomacy measures. And this trend is really gaining steam, and America being more of an isolationist type of nation. And so this is something that I would love to work on next year if I'm reelected. And we can be friends even if you don't vote for me. I want to make that clear.
No, we can't.
We need to make sure that we are getting more accurate information out there. And so that's something that, you know, it's not just about money for Israel. It's about look at how important all the money to these different countries are going, and don't single out just one country all the time, because that is a form of racism. I don't even always use the word anti-Semitism, because that sometimes it's trendy to be anti-Semitic, right? But if you tell someone they're racist, oh my goodness, right? People are being racist. So anyway, that's my really long way of saying thank you. I know that it's really hard right now. I know that there are presidential politics going on. We've been through a few cycles now. Especially on our side, we are really good at making news this month. I will be up front, and I'm very unpopular for doing so, but I was with President Joe Biden till the end, literally one of the few, because I didn't like the way that he was being treated. I felt like it was very disrespectful. But now, as a Democrat, I am with, and you don't have to agree with me, I am with Kamala Harris and whoever she will choose as her nominee for vice president. And I say this because I know some of you might get mad at me, but as we have through the last, I don't know, we've had will be the fourth presidential elections that we have gone through together. I will still be here for you, regardless of what your presidential politics are. Whoever is elected to be in the White House, I will still be here, my team will still be here, and we will continue to fight for our constituents here in Queens, New York. And you should never hesitate to reach out, not just to say thank you, but if you don't like something I'm doing, and I may not agree with you, and I may not do what you want me to do, but you have the absolute right to let me know. And sorry, one last thing. Sarah's right. I actually Zoomed with some of these anti-Israel organizations and leaders. I thought some of them are my constituents. They deserve to say their piece, and they deserve for me to listen to them. I couldn't get past every few sentences I uttered. They would shut me down. They did not want to have a dialogue. They did not want to let me say my thoughts. They were not interested in learning. And so, for whatever it's worth, I say that to show you that I've been open in having conversations, even with people who strongly disagree with me. But, you know, we will continue to work together. And I just want to thank you in the past 10 years or so for your support. And I get thanked publicly a lot. You guys don't. So I am also here to say thank you to all of you.
As a very close friend of Grace, I am fortunate that I have direct access to her. So when I see something that I don't like, I text her or I call her. She's so approachable. She knows that how this district votes. She knows how we voted for the presidential election in the past, or governor in the past, and that I've had her in my house and also Lee Zeldin in my house. She knows, and that's okay. That's okay. She's so amazing like that she'll have a Zoom with these pro-Palestinians to give them the respect that they don't deserve. She gives it to them anyway, because she's that kind of person. Not because she has to do it. She does it because she's that kind of person. And she's so wonderful and approachable, and that's why I, together with the Queens Jewish Alliance, we're hosting this event in support of Grace, just to say thank you to you. Yes, we don't get thank yous, but we're not here for our thank yous. We're here to give you thank you. Yes.
I have also, in my 14 kind of spread.
I also want to thank the Young Israel for allowing us to have this, for hosting this for us. Thank you so much. Thank you. Please do not make me take this all home. Please.